What would you do if everything you believed about a person was shattered in a single moment? In a Providence courtroom on a cold February morning, Judge Frank Caprio was about to witness something that would change how he viewed justice forever. Drop a comment right now telling us what you think a homeless veteran could be hiding under his coat that would shock an entire courtroom. The man standing before the bench looked like he'd seen better days. Michael James Thompson, age 47, wore a tattered military surplus jacket that had seen too many winters on the streets. His beard was unkempt, his hands trembled slightly, and his eyes darted around the courtroom like a cornered animal. But there was something else. Something hidden beneath that bulky green coat that would soon bring everyone in that room to tears. If you believe our veterans deserve better treatment, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this story will restore your faith in humanity. It was February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. While couples across America were exchanging gifts and sharing meals, Michael Thompson was preparing to face a judge for 17 unpaid parking tickets totaling $3,200. For most people, that's a manageable debt. For Michael, living in his 2001 Honda Civic with a broken heater, it might as well have been $3 million. The courtroom at Providence Municipal Court was already filling up. Case number 23PV4187 was about to be called. Judge Frank Caprio took his seat at 9:15 a.m. sharp. At 77 years old, he'd seen thousands of cases, heard every excuse imaginable, and developed a reputation for compassion that had made him a social media phenomenon. Videos of his courtroom interactions had been viewed over 1 billion times worldwide, but nothing in his 5 decades on the bench had prepared him for what was about to unfold. Like this video if you've ever felt invisible in society, because Michael's story will hit you hard. The bailiff called the case. Number 23PV 4187, Providence versus Michael James Thompson, 17 counts of parking violations. Quote, Michael shuffled forward. Each step seemed to take enormous effort. His boots, worn Timberlands with the soles separating from the uppers, squeaked against the polished courtroom floor. The sound echoed in the suddenly silent room. Everyone was watching him. The prosecutor, a young woman named Sarah Chen, fresh out of law school, held her file folder and prepared to recommend the standard penalty. The court clerk, Mrs. Dolores Martinez, who'd worked for Judge Caprio for 23 years, glanced up from her computer screen. Something about this man caught her attention. "Good morning, sir," Judge Caprio said, his gravelly voice carrying the warmth of a grandfather. "Please state your full name for the record." "Michael James Thompson, Your Honor." His voice cracked. When was the last time he'd spoken to someone in authority? When was the last time anyone had called him, sir? "Mr. Thompson, I'm looking at 17 parking tickets here, spanning from June 2022 to January 2023. That's a lot of tickets. Can you help me understand what happened?" Quote, "This is where most defendants would launch into excuses. Judge Caprio had heard them all. But Michael just stood there, swaying slightly, his right hand clutching something through the fabric of his coat. His left hand gripped the defendant's podium to steady himself. Share this video with someone who needs to see that kindness still exists, because what happens next is unbelievable." "Your Honor, Michael's voice trailed off. His eyes glistened with moisture. "I don't have an excuse, sir. I was wrong. I didn't have anywhere else to park." Judge Caprio leaned forward, his reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd been reviewing the case file, but now he set the papers down and really looked at the man before him. The judge's daughter, a doctor, had taught him to spot signs of severe stress and trauma. Michael Thompson was displaying all of them. "Mr. Thompson, what's your current address?" Quote. A pause. The courtroom held its breath. "I don't have one, Your Honor. I've been living in my car for the past 11 months." Quote. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Sarah Chen, the prosecutor, shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't in her briefing notes. She'd assumed this was just another parking scofflaw. Mrs. Martinez stopped typing. "I see," Judge Caprio said softly. "And Mr. Thompson, I notice you're wearing a military jacket. Did you serve our country?" Quote. Yes, sir. United States Army. Sergeant Thompson, 2nd Infantry Division. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2009 and 2012. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you for your service. Tell me, how does a military veteran end up living in his car in Providence, Rhode Island? Quote, this was the question that would crack everything open. Drop a comment telling us how we should treat our veterans, because Michael's answer will break your heart. Michael's hand tightened on whatever he was holding under his coat. His knuckles went white. Your Honor, after I came home, things were different. I had nightmares. Couldn't hold down a job. My wife Jennifer, she tried to help me, but I pushed her away. Started drinking to forget. Lost my job at the warehouse. Lost our apartment. Lost my marriage. She took our daughter Emma and moved to Ohio to live with her parents. That was 3 years ago. His voice was steady now, the words pouring out like water from a broken dam. I tried, Your Honor. I really did. Went to the VA hospital, but the waiting list for mental health services was 8 months long. I was living in my car by the time my appointment came around. Then I missed it because I got a flat tire and had no money for a new one. They canceled my spot, said I'd have to reapply. I gave up. Judge Caprio removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. In his decades on the bench, he'd seen the system fail people countless times, but hearing it spoken so plainly, so honestly, never got easier. These parking tickets, the judge said, picking up the file again, they're all from the same location. The parking lot behind St. Xavier's Church on Hope Street. Every single one. Yes, sir. Father Miguel, the priest there, he told me I could park there. Said the church didn't mind. But I guess the city did. The meter enforcement officer, he'd come by every few days. Write me a ticket, I'd wake up and find it under my windshield wiper. I kept them all. They're in a shoebox in my car. The prosecutor, Sarah Chen, stood up. Your Honor, if I may. The parking enforcement officer filed reports stating that the vehicle was in clear violation of posted ordinances. The church parking lot is zoned for 2-hour parking maximum. Mr. Thompson was essentially using it as a residence, which violates Municipal Code Section 14 to 227. If you're getting angry at this prosecutor's response, wait until you hear what Judge Caprio says next. Hit that like button if you believe compassion should trump the letter of the law. Judge Caprio held up his hand. Ms. Chen, I'm well aware of the municipal codes. I helped write some of them 40 years ago. But let me ask you something. Where exactly would you suggest Mr. Thompson should have parked his car? In fact, where should he have lived? Quote, Sarah Chen's face flushed. Your Honor, I'm simply presenting the city's case. The law is clear. Quote, the law is clear, Judge Caprio repeated. Yes, it is. But justice and the law are not always the same thing, counselor. You'll learn that as you continue in this profession. He turned back to Michael. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Are you under the influence of any substances right now? Quote, no, sir, been sober for 4 months and 12 days. I started attending AA meetings at the community center. That's when things started to get a little better. That's good. That's very good. Recovery is hard work. The judge paused. Now, I notice you keep holding on to something under your coat. Is everything all right? Are you injured? Quote, this was the moment. The courtroom seemed to contract. Every eye fixed on Michael Thompson and his bulky green coat. What was he hiding? Was he armed? Was he injured? The bailiff, Officer Raymond Torres, a 17-year veteran of court security, tensed slightly and moved his hand closer to his radio. Subscribe right now, because what Michael reveals will absolutely shock you. Michael's face crumpled. Tears began streaming down his weathered cheeks, cutting tracks through the grime. His whole body shook. Your Honor, I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't leave her in the car. It's too cold. Her? Judge Caprio stood up from his bench, something he rarely did during proceedings. Mr. Thompson, what are you talking about? Quote, with trembling hands, Michael slowly unzipped his coat. Everyone in the courtroom leaned forward. Officer Torres moved closer, his hand now on his radio. Sarah Chen stood frozen. Mrs. Martinez gasped. From inside the coat, Michael carefully extracted a small dog, a Chihuahua mix, maybe 10 pounds, with tan and white fur and enormous brown eyes. The little dog was wrapped in what looked like a child's pink blanket, faded and threadbare. She was shivering despite being tucked against Michael's chest. "This is Princess," Michael said, his voice breaking completely now. "She's 11 years old. She was my daughter Emma's dog." When Jennifer left, Emma couldn't take Princess to her grandparents' place. They don't allow pets. Jennifer was going to bring her to a shelter, but Emma begged me to take her. She's all I have left of my little girl. The courtroom erupted, not in chaos, but in a wave of emotion that was almost physical. Mrs. Martinez had tears streaming down her face. Several people in the gallery were openly crying. Sarah Chen sat down abruptly, her file folder forgotten. Even Officer Torres had to turn away and compose himself. Share this video right now with every dog lover you know, because this story gets even more incredible. But Judge Caprio held up his hand for silence. He walked down from the bench, something he never did, and approached Michael Thompson. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward Princess. Michael nodded, unable to speak. The judge gently stroked the small dog's head. Princess licked his hand weakly. She was thin. Too thin. Her ribs showed through her fur. "When did she last eat, Mr. Thompson?" Quote, "Yesterday morning, Your Honor. I had enough money for 1 can of dog food. I've been feeding her before I eat, always. But my disability check doesn't come for another week, and I'm out of food for both of us." Judge Caprio returned to his bench, but his demeanor had completely changed. This was no longer a routine parking violation case. This was something else entirely. Something that would challenge everything he understood about justice, mercy, and the broken system that was supposed to help people like Michael Thompson. "Ms. Chen," the judge said, his voice thick with emotion, "what does the city recommend in this case?" Quote, Sarah Chen stood slowly. She was 26 years old. This was her 3rd month as a prosecutor. She'd taken this job because she believed in justice, in helping people, in making society better. But right now, looking at Michael Thompson holding his daughter's dog, wearing the uniform of a man who'd served his country, broken by a system that was supposed to protect him, she felt the weight of her oath crushing her. "Your Honor," she said quietly, "I need a moment to consult my supervising attorney." "Denied," Judge Caprio said sharply. "You're the prosecutor on this case, Ms. Chen. The city speaks through you right now. What does the city recommend?" Quote, "Like this video if you want to see what this prosecutor does next, because her decision will surprise you." Sarah Chen looked at her notes. The law was clear. 17 violations at $188 each, plus late fees totaled $3, $196. The standard recommendation for someone with multiple unpaid parking violations was payment in full or a warrant for arrest. She'd made that exact recommendation in 15 cases this week alone. But those people weren't Michael Thompson. They weren't homeless veterans holding their daughter's dying dog. "Your Honor," she began, her voice shaking, "the city, I can't do this." "Excuse me?" Quote, "Your Honor, I became a prosecutor to serve justice. And there's no justice in punishing this man. The city moves to dismiss all charges." The courtroom exploded. People were standing, applauding. Judge Caprio banged his gavel, but he was smiling. "Order! We will have order!" But there was no force behind his words. He was too moved himself. "Ms. Chen, are you aware that your supervisor will likely want to discuss this decision with you?" Quote, "Yes, Your Honor. And if he fires me, then I'll know I did the right thing. Mr. Thompson served our country. He's going through something I can't imagine. The least I can do is show him the same courage he showed defending our freedom. Drop a comment telling us if this prosecutor did the right thing, because what happens next will shock you even more." But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. He opened a drawer in his bench and pulled out his personal checkbook. This was something he'd done before, something that had made him famous on social media. But usually it was for small amounts. $20 for a parking meter. $50 for someone who couldn't afford a fine. This time he wrote a check for $500. "Mr. Thompson, this is a personal loan from me to you, interest-free. You can pay me back whenever you're able. And if that's never, that's fine too. I want you to use this money to get some food for yourself and Princess, and to find proper veterinary care for her. She needs to see a doctor." Michael stared at the check like it was a winning lottery ticket. "Your Honor, I can't accept this. It's too much." Quote, "You can, and you will. That's not a request, Mr. Thompson. It's an order from this court." But something else was happening in the courtroom. Officer Torres was speaking quietly into his radio. Mrs. Martinez was on her cell phone, texting rapidly. Judge Caprio noticed but said nothing. He'd seen his staff do this before. They were part of what made his courtroom special. They cared. "Mr. Thompson," the judge continued, "I'm going to do something else. I'm issuing a judicial order requiring the Providence VA Medical Center to provide you with an immediate mental health assessment and placement in their housing assistance program within 72 hours. I'm also ordering that you be given priority placement, and I'm going to personally call the director this afternoon to make sure it happens." Quote, "Your Honor, you can do that?" Quote, "I'm a judge, Mr. Thompson. I can do a lot of things when justice requires it, and justice requires that we take care of the people who took care of us. Subscribe if you believe this is what real justice looks like, because this story isn't over yet." What happened next would become the most shared video clip in the history of Judge Caprio's courtroom, eventually viewed over 50 million times worldwide. Mrs. Martinez stood up from her desk and approached the bench. "Your Honor, if I may?" Quote, "Yes, Mrs. Martinez." Quote, "My daughter is a veterinarian at the Hope Street Animal Clinic. I just texted her about Princess. She said to bring the dog in immediately. She'll see her for free, provide any necessary treatment, and set up a care plan. No charge." Michael's legs buckled. Officer Torres caught him and helped him to a chair. Princess, still wrapped in her pink blanket, licked Michael's face as he sobbed. But there was more. A man from the gallery stood up. He was wearing a dark blue suit, probably in his 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes. "Your Honor, my name is Robert Castellano. I own Castellano Property Management here in Providence. I have a studio apartment in my building on Branch Avenue that's been vacant for 2 months. Mr. Thompson, if you're interested, it's yours. First 3 months rent-free. After that, we'll work out something you can afford." Now it was Judge Caprio's turn to have tears in his eyes. "Mr. Castellano, that's very generous. Judge, I watch your videos with my kids. You've taught them that kindness matters more than money. I'm just following your example. Plus, Mr. Thompson served our country. The least I can do is provide him with a roof over his head." Another person stood up. A woman this time, probably in her 40s, wearing a blazer and jeans. "Your Honor, my name is Patricia Donovan. I'm the Regional Director for Job Path Rhode Island, a veterans employment agency. Mr. Thompson, we specialize in helping veterans transition to civilian employment. I'd like to offer you our comprehensive services, including job training, interview preparation, and direct placement assistance. We have partnerships with over 300 employers in the state who specifically want to hire veterans." Michael couldn't speak anymore. He just held Princess and cried. These weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of relief, of hope, of the crushing weight of despair finally lifting after 11 months of darkness. Like and share this video if you believe in the power of community, because what happens next will prove that miracles do exist. Father Miguel Rodriguez stood up from the back of the courtroom. He was a small man, barely 5'6", wearing his clerical collar and a warm smile. "Your Honor, I've been watching Mr. Thompson park in our church lot for months. I told him he was welcome there. I should have done more. I should have brought him inside, fed him, helped him. I failed him, and I failed God's commandment to care for the least among us. That ends today. Mr. Thompson, until your apartment is ready, you're staying in our rectory. We have a guest room. It has heat, hot water, and a bed. And you're both eating every meal with us until you're back on your feet." Judge Caprio had to call a 15-minute recess. The emotion in the courtroom was too overwhelming to continue with the docket. People were hugging Michael, giving him their phone numbers, offering help. Sarah Chen, the young prosecutor, approached him with tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Thompson, I'm so sorry. I almost just followed the rules without seeing you as a person. Thank you for teaching me what justice really means." Michael shook his head. "You did good, ma'am. You did real good. I thought I was coming here to lose everything. Instead, I found hope." During the recess, Officer Torres made another call. Within minutes, his brother-in-law, who owned a tire shop, agreed to replace all 4 tires on Michael's Honda Civic for free. A woman from the gallery who ran a clothing donation program for veterans brought 3 bags of cold-weather clothes the next day. Another man, who owned a restaurant, offered Michael a part-time job washing dishes, starting whenever he was ready, no resume required. Drop a comment about a time when strangers showed you kindness, because Michael's story is about to take another incredible turn. When court resumed, Judge Caprio made his final ruling. Case number 23 PV 4187, Providence versus Michael James Thompson, is hereby dismissed with prejudice. All parking violations are vacated. The city will remove all record of these citations from Mr. Thompson's file. Furthermore, I am ordering that no parking enforcement actions be taken against Mr. Thompson's vehicle for the next 90 days while he gets back on his feet. Ms. Chen, please prepare the appropriate order for my signature. Yes, Your Honor. Gladly. And Mr. Thompson, I want to see you back in this courtroom in 6 months. Not because you're in trouble, but because I want to know how you're doing. Will you come back and visit me? Quote. Michael stood, still holding Princess. Yes, sir, Your Honor. I promise I'll be here. Good. And bring Princess. I want to see her healthy and happy. As Michael left the courtroom that morning, he was surrounded by new friends. Father Miguel had his arm around his shoulders. Mrs. Martinez was walking beside him, giving him directions to her daughter's veterinary clinic. Robert Castellano was explaining the apartment layout. Patricia Donovan was scheduling his first appointment with JobPath. Officer Torres was writing down the address of his brother-in-law's tire shop. And in Michael's arms, wrapped in her pink blanket, Princess looked up at him with those enormous brown eyes, and for the first time in months, she wagged her tail. But this story doesn't end at the courtroom doors. Share this video because what happens over the next 6 months will restore your faith in humanity. The news crews were waiting outside. Someone in the gallery had filmed the entire proceeding on their phone, and it had already been posted online. By that afternoon, Michael Thompson's story was trending on every social media platform. Homeless veteran with dog and coat receives mercy from Judge Caprio was the #1 trending topic on Twitter. The video had been viewed 3 million times before sunset. The attention brought even more help. A GoFundMe campaign started by someone in the courtroom raised over $80,000 in just 2 days. The Providence chapter of the Veterans of Foreign Wars contacted Michael and provided him with immediate assistance, including a new phone, a laptop for job searching, and connection to veteran support groups. The regional VA director, embarrassed by the national attention to their 8-month waiting list, personally called Michael and got him an appointment with a trauma counselor within a week. Princess was examined by Dr. Maria Martinez, Mrs. Martinez's daughter, that same afternoon. The little dog was severely malnourished, had untreated arthritis, and needed extensive dental work, but Dr. Martinez, with tears in her eyes, promised to handle everything. "Your dad saved my mom's life in a way," she told Princess, scratching behind her ears. "When my father died, she was lost. Judge Caprio gave her a job and a purpose. He taught her that helping people is the greatest calling. Now it's my turn to help." The dental work, the arthritis medication, the nutritional supplements, all of it was provided free of charge. Dr. Martinez also connected Michael with a pet supply company that agreed to donate Princess's food for an entire year. Within 3 weeks, Princess had gained 2 pounds and was moving around with the energy of a much younger dog. If you have a pet you love, hit that like button, because the bond between Michael and Princess is about to face its biggest test. Michael moved into the studio apartment on Branch Avenue on February 20th, exactly 6 days after his court appearance. It was small, just 400 square feet, but to someone who'd been living in a Honda Civic, it was a palace. The apartment had heat, hot water, a real bed, a small kitchen. Robert Castellano had even furnished it with donated items from his other tenants. But more importantly, it allowed pets. Princess had her own bed in the corner, a fluffy pink cushion that someone had donated after seeing the story online. She slept on it every night, though she'd often wake up and jump onto Michael's bed, curling up against his chest, just like she had in the car. Michael started seeing Dr. Elizabeth Warren, a trauma counselor at the VA, twice a week. The sessions were brutal. He had to confront things he'd buried for years. The friends he'd lost in Afghanistan. The guilt of surviving when others didn't. The moral injuries of war that no amount of training could prepare you for. The shame of feeling weak when he'd always thought of himself as strong. PTSD isn't weakness, Dr. Warren told him during their third session. It's your brain's response to experiencing things no human should have to experience. You're not broken, Michael. You're injured. And injuries can heal if we treat them properly. The AA meetings continued. Michael became a regular at the Thursday night group at the community center. He shared his story, and other veterans in the group shared theirs. He learned he wasn't alone. Thousands of veterans struggled with the same demons. Knowing that didn't make it easy, but it made it bearable. Patricia Donovan from JobPath was true to her word. She worked with Michael on rebuilding his resume, highlighting his military leadership experience, his logistics training, and his honorable discharge. She connected him with a local warehousing company that specifically hired veterans. The owner, himself a retired Marine, understood the challenges and was willing to work around Michael's therapy schedule. Subscribe now because Michael's 6-month check-in with Judge Caprio is going to be emotional. Michael started as a forklift operator in March at Providence Distribution Systems. The pay was decent, $16 an hour, enough to start saving money and eventually pay rent. His boss, Marcus Wheeler, was patient when Michael had bad days. There were times when loud noises would trigger flashbacks, when Michael would have to step outside and breathe through a panic attack. But Marcus never judged him. "You got my back in Afghanistan," Marcus said, even though they'd never served together. "Now I got yours here." Michael reconnected with his daughter. Emma was now 12 years old, living in Cleveland with her mother and grandparents. When she heard about what happened in court, she'd begged her mother to call Michael. That first phone conversation lasted 3 hours. They cried together, laughed together. Emma told him about school, her friends, her basketball team. Michael told her about Princess, about how the little dog had saved his life by giving him a reason to keep going. "Dad, I'm so proud of you," Emma said at the end of that call. "Mom told me you were sick, that you needed to get better before you could be my dad again. Are you getting better?" Quote, "Yes, baby girl, I'm getting better. And I'm going to keep getting better because I want you in my life. I want to be the dad you deserve." Jennifer, his ex-wife, was cautious but hopeful. She'd been hurt by Michael's drinking, his anger, his withdrawal. But she could hear the change in his voice. When Michael sent her a photo of him in his work uniform, standing in front of the warehouse holding Princess, Jennifer cried. "That's the man I married," she told her mother. "He's still in there." They agreed that Michael could come to Cleveland for Emma's birthday in July, just a weekend visit, no pressure. Just a chance to see each other, to hug his daughter, to maybe begin healing that relationship too. Like this video if you believe in second chances, because Michael's transformation is about to face its ultimate test, but the road to recovery is never straight. In April, Michael had a major setback. A car backfired near the warehouse, and the sound triggered a severe panic attack. Michael was transported to the emergency room, hyperventilating, convinced he was dying. Dr. Warren met him at the hospital and talked him through it. "This is part of the process," she said gently. "Healing isn't linear. You'll have good days and bad days. The important thing is that you're still fighting." Quote, that incident made Michael realize he needed to be honest with Emma and Jennifer about his struggles. He called them that night and told them what had happened. He didn't hide the severity of his PTSD, the ongoing nature of his recovery, the fact that he'd probably deal with this for the rest of his life. Emma surprised him. "Dad, my friend Zoe's dad has PTSD too. He was in Iraq. He has a service dog and everything." Zoe says it's just part of who her dad is, and she doesn't love him any less. "I don't love you any less either." Those words sustained Michael through the dark days that followed. He increased his therapy to 3 times a week. He started a medication regimen that helped with the anxiety and nightmares. He joined a veteran peer support group that met every Sunday morning. Slowly, gradually, he found his footing again. Father Miguel remained a constant presence in Michael's life. They had breakfast together every Saturday morning at a diner near the church. The priest never preached, never judged. He just listened and offered friendship. "God works through people," Father Miguel told Michael one morning. Judge Caprio, Mrs. Martinez, all those people in the courtroom, they were instruments of divine grace. But you had to be willing to accept that grace. A lot of people can't. They're too proud, too hurt. You were brave enough to be vulnerable. Comment below about a time when you had to be vulnerable, because Michael's 6-month court date is finally here. August 14th, 2023, exactly 6 months after his first appearance. Michael Thompson walked into Providence Municipal Court wearing khaki pants, a button-down shirt, and a borrowed tie. He'd gained 25 pounds of healthy weight. His beard was trimmed, his eyes were clear, and in his arms, wrapped in a brand-new pink blanket, was Princess. The little Chihuahua was healthy, happy, and energetic, her tail wagging constantly. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread that Michael was returning. Sarah Chen, the prosecutor who'd dismissed his case, was there on her day off. Mrs. Martinez had baked cookies, which she'd hidden in her desk until afterward. Officer Torres was working security, and he greeted Michael with a firm handshake and a warm smile. Father Miguel sat in the front row. Robert Castellano was there. Patricia Donovan, Dr. Maria Martinez, Marcus Wheeler from the warehouse, and dozens of others who'd seen the original video and wanted to witness the follow-up in person. Judge Caprio entered the courtroom at exactly 10 o'clock. When he saw Michael standing there, healthy and confident, the judge's face broke into an enormous smile. "Mr. Thompson, you came back." Quote, "I gave you my word, Your Honor. And I brought Princess, just like you asked. Come here, let me see her." Michael approached the bench. Princess, recognizing the kind man from 6 months ago, wagged her tail furiously and licked the judge's hand when he petted her. "Oh my goodness, look at you. You're so healthy." "Dr. Martinez, you did wonderful work." "It was my pleasure, Your Honor. This little lady is a fighter." Judge Caprio sat back down, but his smile never faded. "Mr. Thompson, the court is not in official session right now. This is just a personal check-in. But I do want to ask, how are you doing, really doing?" Quote, "Share this with every veteran you know because Michael's answer will inspire you." Michael took a deep breath. "Your Honor, 6 months ago, I was ready to give up. I was living in my car, starving, watching Princess get sicker, and I couldn't see a way out. I came to this courtroom expecting to be arrested, to lose everything. Instead, you and everyone here gave me my life back. You saw me as a person, not just a case number. You showed me that people still care." Quote. His voice grew stronger. "I'm working full-time now at Providence Distribution Systems. I've been sober for 10 months and 14 days. I'm seeing a therapist twice a week, and it's helping. I'm on medication that's managing my PTSD. I have an apartment that I'm paying for myself now. Princess is healthy. And I'm talking to my daughter every week. I'm flying to Cleveland next month for her birthday. I'm going to see my little girl for the first time in over 3 years." Quote. The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of people sniffling, wiping away tears. "But most importantly, Your Honor, I have hope again. I thought I'd lost that. I thought hope was for other people, not for broken-down veterans who'd failed at everything. You taught me that hope isn't something you find. It's something people give you when you need it most. And you gave it to me." Judge Caprio had to pause and compose himself. "Mr. Thompson, you're the one who did the hard work. We just opened a few doors. You're the one who walked through them. You should be very proud of yourself." "I am, sir. For the first time in years, I actually am." The judge reached into his desk and pulled out an envelope. "Mr. Thompson, I don't normally do this, but I want you to have something. This is a letter I wrote to your daughter, Emma. It explains what happened in this courtroom, what I saw in you, and why she should be proud of her father. I'm hoping you'll give it to her when you see her next month." Michael took the envelope with shaking hands. "Your Honor, Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "Then don't say thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting. Keep healing. Keep being a father to your daughter. and keep taking care of Princess. That's all the thanks I need. If you're crying right now, hit that like button because there's one more surprise that will leave you speechless. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. Mr. Thompson, there's something else. Your story touched a lot of people. As you know, the video of your first court appearance went viral. It's been viewed over 50 million times now, across all platforms. People from around the world have been asking how they can help veterans like you who fall through the cracks of the system. He gestured to Officer Torres, who brought forward a poster board. It displayed the logo of a new organization, the Princess Project, helping homeless veterans and their pets. Mr. Thompson, a group of people inspired by your story has started a non-profit organization. The Princess Project provides temporary housing, veterinary care, food assistance, and mental health services specifically for homeless veterans with pets. One of the main reasons veterans don't use homeless shelters is because they can't bring their animals, and they refuse to abandon them. The Princess Project ensures they don't have to make that choice. Michael stared at the poster, his mouth open. They named it after Princess? Quote, "They did. And Mr. Thompson, they want you to be a spokesperson. No pressure, and only if you're comfortable with it. But your story has the power to help thousands of other veterans. They're asking if you'd be willing to share your experience, to let other veterans know that help is available, that recovery is possible." Patricia Donovan stood up from the gallery. "Michael, we've already secured initial funding of $250,000 through grants and donations. We have partnerships with veteran service organizations in 15 states. We've helped 8 veterans in Providence alone in the past 4 months. Your story is changing lives. Drop a comment telling us what you think Michael should do because his decision will impact thousands of veterans." Michael looked down at Princess, who looked back up at him with those trusting brown eyes. He thought about the 11 months in his car, the cold nights, the hunger, the despair. He thought about Emma's voice on the phone, saying she was proud of him. He thought about every veteran out there right now, sitting in their car, holding their dog, wondering if anyone cared. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "If my story can help even one veteran avoid what I went through, then everything I suffered had a purpose. Yes, I'll be a spokesperson. I'll share my story as many times as needed, and I'll work with the Princess Project in any way I can." The courtroom erupted in applause. People were standing, cheering. Judge Caprio was beaming. Sarah Chen was crying openly. Father Miguel was hugging everyone around him. Mrs. Martinez was taking pictures to send to her daughter. Officer Torres stepped forward and saluted Michael. "Sergeant Thompson, on behalf of all of us who served, thank you for continuing to serve even after you came home. You're still fighting for your brothers and sisters. That's what a true soldier does." Michael returned the salute, tears streaming down his face. Judge Caprio banged his gavel for order, though he was laughing through his own tears. All right. Let's maintain some dignity here. This is still a courtroom." Quote, once everyone settled down, the judge made one final statement. "Mr. Thompson, I'm going to say something I don't say often. Meeting you changed me. It reminded me why I became a judge in the first place. It's not about the law. It's not about rules and regulations. It's about people. It's about recognizing that everyone who walks through that door has a story, has struggles, has dignity that deserves to be honored. You reminded me of that. So thank you. Your Honor, you saved my life." "No, Mr. Thompson, you saved your own life. I just held the door open." Quote, like and subscribe right now because Michael's journey is about to come full circle in the most beautiful way. The gathering after the court check-in moved to St. Xavier's Church, where Father Miguel had organized a celebration luncheon. Over 100 people attended, including several veterans who'd been helped by the Princess Project in its early months. They shared their stories with Michael, thanked him for giving them hope. One veteran, a woman named Staff Sergeant Linda Martinez, who'd served in Iraq, approached Michael with tears in her eyes. She was holding a small terrier mix. "Your story saved my life," she said simply. "I saw that video in May. I was planning to kill myself that night. I was living under a bridge with Buddy here, and I couldn't see a reason to keep going. But I watched you stand in that courtroom, watched you pull Princess from your coat, Watched everyone rush to help you, and I thought maybe there was hope for me too. I called the Princess Project the next morning. They got me into housing within a week. I start a new job on Monday. Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help." Michael hugged her, both of them crying. Princess and Buddy sniffed each other curiously. "You did the hard part," Michael told her. "You made the call. You chose to live. That's the bravest thing any of us can do." The celebration continued for hours. People shared food, stories, laughter. Michael got dozens of phone numbers and email addresses from people offering ongoing support. Marcus Wheeler, his boss, pulled him aside and told him he was getting a promotion to warehouse supervisor with a raise to $19 an hour. Robert Castellano said that after the 3 months of free rent expired, Michael had paid every month on time and had been a model tenant, and he was waiving the security deposit Michael had been saving for. But the most important moment came when Michael stepped outside for some air and called Emma on his new phone. "Hey, baby girl, guess where I am?" Quote, "Where, Dad?" Quote, "I'm at a party celebrating 6 months of being sober, 6 months of having a home, and 6 months since I met a judge who changed my life. And everyone here is asking about you. They want to meet you someday." "Really? People want to meet me?" Quote, "Of course they do. You're my daughter. You're the reason I fought so hard to get better. You and Princess." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, in a small voice, she said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" Quote, "Anything, sweetheart." "When you come for my birthday, can you stay for a whole week instead of just a weekend? Mom said it's okay if you want to. We could do stuff together, like we used to. We could take Princess to the park and everything." Michael's throat closed up. He couldn't speak for several seconds. Finally, he managed, "Yes, baby, I'd love that more than anything in the world." "Okay, good. I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Emma. More than you'll ever know." Share this video with everyone who needs to hear that recovery is possible, because this story proves that miracles happen when people care. September 2023 brought new developments. The Princess Project expanded to 22 states, and it helped over 200 veterans in its first 7 months. Michael became a regular speaker at veteran events, sharing his story and encouraging others to seek help. The video of his 6-month check-in with Judge Caprio was viewed over 30 million times, spreading awareness of veteran homelessness and mental health issues. Michael flew to Cleveland for Emma's birthday and stayed for 10 days. It was awkward at first, the years of separation creating a wall between them. But Princess broke through that wall. Emma spent hours playing with the little dog, grooming her, teaching her tricks, and while they played, Michael and Emma talked. Really talked. About the divorce, about his drinking, about Afghanistan, about her fears and his mistakes and their hopes for the future. On the last night of his visit, Emma crawled into his lap like she used to when she was little, even though she was 12 now and almost too big for it. "Dad, are you going to stay better?" Quote, "Michael chose honesty over comfort. I'm going to try every single day. Some days will be hard. I'll probably always have PTSD. But I have help now, and I have reasons to keep fighting. You're my biggest reason." "Good, because I need my dad. I missed you so much." Quote, "I missed you too, baby girl, every single day." Jennifer watched from the doorway, tears running down her face. Later, after Emma went to bed, she and Michael talked for hours. She wasn't ready to reconcile, maybe would never be, but she was willing to let Michael be a father to Emma again. "You're different," she said. "I can see it. You're doing the work, just keep doing it." Quote, "I will. I promise you, I will." Hit that subscribe button if you believe in redemption, because Michael's story is about to change the world. By January 2024, almost a year after his first court appearance, Michael Thompson was a completely different man. He'd been promoted again at the warehouse, now earning $22 an hour as a logistics coordinator. He'd saved enough money to buy a reliable used car, a 2015 Toyota Corolla, to replace the Honda Civic that had been his home. He'd furnished his apartment with items he'd purchased himself. He'd been sober for over a year. His relationship with Emma continued to strengthen. She visited him in Providence for Christmas, staying for 2 weeks. Jennifer came too, though she stayed in a hotel. It was progress. Small steps toward healing a family that had been shattered by war, trauma, and addiction. Princess turned 12 years old in March 2024. Dr. Martinez threw a birthday party at her veterinary clinic, inviting all the pets that had been helped by the Princess Project. Over 30 dogs and cats attended, along with their veteran owners. It was chaos and joy and proof that small acts of kindness can create ripples that change hundreds of lives. Judge Caprio attended the party, bringing homemade dog treats his wife had baked. He spent an hour talking with the veterans, hearing their stories, seeing the impact his courtroom compassion had sparked. "This is why I became a judge," he told Michael. "Not to punish people, but to help them find their way back to their best selves." "You did that, Michael. You found your way back." "With a lot of help, Your Honor. The best journeys are never taken alone." The Princess Project's impact continued to grow. By mid-2024, the organization had helped over 500 homeless veterans, provided veterinary care for over 800 pets, secured housing for 342 veterans, connected 289 veterans with mental health services, facilitated 156 job placements, reunited 47 veterans with their families. Those weren't just statistics. They were lives saved, families reunited, hope restored. Michael spoke at the organization's first national fundraising gala in June 2024. He stood at the podium, Princess in his arms, and told his story to over 600 attendees. He didn't hide his struggles, his failures, his darkest moments. He spoke with raw honesty about suicidal thoughts, about the shame of homelessness, about the terror of PTSD, about almost giving up. "But I didn't give up," he concluded, "because a judge saw me as a human being, because strangers showed me kindness, because a little dog needed me, and because my daughter believed I could be better." Everyone in this room has the power to be that for someone. You can be the person who sees them, who helps them, who believes in them, and maybe, just maybe, you'll save a life. The speech received a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. The gala raised over $1.2 million for the Princess Project. Like this video and subscribe if you believe one person can make a difference, because Michael Thompson is living proof. In October 2024, 20 months after his first court appearance, Michael received a letter in the mail. The return address was Cleveland, Ohio. He recognized Jennifer's handwriting. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a letter and a photo. The photo showed Emma, now 13, wearing a basketball uniform and holding a trophy. She was smiling, genuinely happy. The letter read, "Michael, Emma made the travel basketball team and they won their regional tournament. She asked me to send you this photo. She also asked me something else, and I told her I needed to talk to you first. She wants to move back to Providence. She wants to live with you part-time, maybe starting next summer. Split custody, with her spending school years in Cleveland with me and summers and holidays with you. I told her I'd think about it and talk to you. I'm not saying yes yet, but I'm not saying no either. You've been consistent for almost 2 years now. You've shown up for her every time you said you would. You're doing the work. If you want this, we can discuss the details. Emma misses you, and I think maybe it would be good for her to have her father more present in her life. Call me when you're ready to talk, Jennifer." Michael sat on his couch and cried. Princess jumped up beside him and licked his face, concerned. He called immediately. Jennifer answered on the second ring. They talked for 3 hours, working out logistics, setting boundaries, making plans. It was hard, emotional, sometimes tense. But it was happening. He was getting his daughter back. The custody arrangement was formalized in December 2024. Starting in June 2025, Emma would spend her summers and alternating holidays with Michael in Providence. It wasn't full custody. It wasn't even 50-50. But it was a second chance. It was hope. It was proof that people can change, that families can heal. Judge Caprio received regular updates from Michael. They developed a friendship that transcended the courtroom. The judge attended Emma's first weekend visit to Providence in January 2025, joining Michael and Emma for lunch. He brought Princess a new pink blanket, plush and warm. Emma hugged him and called him honorary grandpa, which made the 79-year-old judge cry happy tears. Comment below about a father-daughter relationship in your life, because Michael and Emma's story shows that love can survive anything. By February 2025, exactly 2 years after his first court appearance, Michael Thompson had accomplished what seemed impossible that cold Valentine's Day morning. He had maintained sobriety for 2 years, held steady employment for nearly 2 years, paid his own rent for over 18 months, rebuilt his relationship with his daughter, become a national advocate for homeless veterans, helped launch an organization that had assisted over 800 veterans, provided hope to thousands more through his speeches and media appearances, earned the respect of his community. But more than any of those accomplishments, Michael had reclaimed something he thought he was no longer defined by his mistakes, his trauma, his failures. He was defined by his courage to keep fighting, his willingness to accept help, his determination to be better. Princess, now 12.5 years old, slowed down considerably in early 2025. Dr. Martinez prepared Michael for the reality that the little dog wouldn't live forever. They'd had 2 precious years together since that court appearance, 2 years she might not have survived without the intervention of kind strangers. Michael made every day count. He took her to the park when weather permitted. He bought her special food. He held her every night. "You saved me," he whispered to her one evening as they sat on his couch, watching the sunset through his apartment window. "You gave me a reason to keep going when I had nothing else. You were Emma's gift to me, and you taught me how to be a father again. Thank you, Princess." Princess licked his hand and settled against his chest, the same way she had in the car during those cold months, the same way she had under his coat in the courtroom. She was home. They both were. Subscribe and share this video right now, because we need more stories like this in the world. The 3rd annual check-in with Judge Caprio happened in February 2025. This time, Emma was there too. She stood beside her father, holding Princess as Judge Caprio smiled down at them from the bench. "Well, Mr. Thompson, it's been 2 years. Look at you, look at your family. This is what justice is supposed to look like. Your Honor, I owe you everything." "No, Michael, you owe yourself everything. You did the work. I just reminded you that you were worth saving." Emma spoke up, her voice clear and strong. "Your Honor, I wanted to come today to say thank you. You gave me my dad back. He's not perfect. He still has hard days. But he's my dad, and he's trying, and that's all I ever wanted." Judge Caprio had to remove his glasses and wipe his eyes. "Young lady, your father is lucky to have you. And Michael, you're raising a remarkable daughter." "She takes after her mother," Michael said, looking at Jennifer, who sat in the front row. Jennifer smiled, and for the first time in years, it was a smile without pain behind it. The courtroom was packed again. This had become an annual tradition. News crews were present. The Princess Project had set up an information booth in the courthouse lobby. Sarah Chen, now a senior prosecutor, was there with her own rescue dog. Father Miguel sat in his usual spot. Robert Castellano, Patricia Donovan, Marcus Wheeler, Dr. Martinez, Officer Torres, Mrs. Martinez, and dozens of others who'd been part of Michael's journey filled the gallery. Judge Caprio made a final statement. 2 years ago, a man stood in this courtroom who had lost everything except a little dog and the courage to keep going. Today, that man has rebuilt his life, reconnected with his daughter, and inspired a movement that's helping veterans across America. This is why I still come to work every day at 79 years old. This is why justice matters, not because of rules and punishment, but because of redemption and hope. Thank you, Michael Thompson, for reminding us all what's possible when we see each other as human beings. The applause was thunderous. People were crying, cheering, hugging. Emma hugged her father. Jennifer hugged them both. Princess barked, a tiny sound that somehow cut through the noise, making everyone laugh. Drop a comment right now telling us what this story meant to you, because your words matter. As Michael left the courtroom that day, surrounded by his daughter, his ex-wife, his friends, and his tiny dog, He thought about the man he'd been 2 years ago. Broken, hopeless, ready to give up. He thought about sleeping in his car, about the cold, about the hunger, about the despair so deep it felt like drowning. And then he thought about where he was now. Not perfect, still dealing with PTSD, still attending therapy, still going to AA meetings, still taking medication, still having hard days. But he was fighting, he was living, he was loving and being loved. He was present in his daughter's life. He had a purpose beyond just surviving. That evening, Michael wrote a letter to himself, the version of himself, from February 14, 2023, the man who'd walked into that courtroom expecting the worst. Dear Michael, right now, you think it's over. You think you've lost everything that matters. You're wrong. You're about to discover that you haven't lost everything. You still have courage. You still have dignity. You still have the capacity to accept help. And you still have people who will see you, really see you, when you're brave enough to be vulnerable. It won't be easy. Recovery never is. You'll have setbacks. You'll have days when you want to quit. You'll question whether you deserve the help you're receiving. But you do deserve it. Every veteran who served this country deserves support, compassion, and a second chance. Princess is going to live for 2 more precious years because of the kindness of strangers. Emma is going to forgive you and come back into your life. You're going to help hundreds of other veterans find hope. And you're going to learn that your worst moments don't define you. Your response to those moments does. Hold on, it gets better. I promise. Love, Michael, 2 years later. He folded the letter and put it in his wallet, right next to a photo of Emma and Princess. He'd carry it with him as a reminder of how far he'd come, and as inspiration for the veterans he'd speak to who were where he used to be. If this story impacted you, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. The Princess Project continued to grow and expand its reach. Michael became the organization's Director of Veteran Outreach in March 2025, a paid position that allowed him to turn his advocacy work into a career. He traveled to cities across America, speaking at veteran centers, homeless shelters, and community events. He shared his story thousands of times, and each time, he saw the spark of hope light up in the eyes of veterans who thought they were beyond help. At one event in Phoenix, Arizona, a homeless veteran approached him after his speech. The man was probably in his 60s, weathered and tired, holding a small mixed-breed dog. "Is it really possible?" the man asked. "Can someone like me actually get better?" Quote. Michael knelt down to pet the dog. "What's your name, friend?" Quote, "Gunner. He was my son's dog. My son died in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago. Gunner's all I have left of him." "And your name?" Quote, Robert Torres. Staff Sergeant, retired. Michael stood and looked Robert in the eyes. "Staff Sergeant Torres, I was living in my car 2 years ago. I was drinking myself to death. I couldn't see a way out. And then I walked into a courtroom and met a judge who saw me as a human being instead of a problem. That changed everything. So yes, it's possible. But you have to be willing to accept help. Are you willing?" Quote. Robert nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Yes. I'm so tired of being alone." Michael connected Robert with the Princess Project's Arizona chapter that same day. Within a week, Robert and Gunner were in transitional housing. Within a month, Robert was receiving mental health treatment. 6 months later, Michael received a photo of Robert and Gunner in their own apartment. Robert had found part-time work at a veterans center. Gunner was healthy and happy. One life at a time. That's how change happened. Subscribe if you believe every life matters, because there are thousands of Roberts and Michaels who need our help. Princess passed away peacefully in her sleep on April 3, 2025, 3 days after her 13th birthday. Michael was holding her when it happened. Emma was visiting for spring break and was there too. They buried Princess in a pet cemetery under a flowering cherry tree. The headstone read, "Princess, 2012 to 2025. a small dog with a giant heart who saved her human and inspired a movement. Forever loved. Over 200 people attended the memorial service, including Judge Caprio, who gave a beautiful eulogy about how one small act of bringing a dog to court had changed the trajectory of countless lives. The Princess Project announced a special fund in Princess's name that would provide end-of-life veterinary care for the pets of homeless veterans, ensuring no one would have to watch their companion suffer due to lack of resources. Michael grieved deeply. Princess had been more than a pet. She'd been his anchor, his reason to live when he had no other reasons. But he also felt profound gratitude for the 2 years they'd had together after the courtroom appearance. 2 years she wouldn't have survived without intervention. 2 years of love, warmth, and security. 2 years of knowing she was valued and cared for. Emma held his hand at the memorial. "She was a good dog, Dad. She did her job. She kept you alive until you could take care of yourself. She did, baby. She really did." 3 weeks later, Michael and Emma went to a shelter together. They walked through the kennels, looking at the dogs who needed homes. Emma stopped in front of a kennel holding a small beagle mix, probably 2 years old, with soulful brown eyes. "Dad, look at her. She looks so sad." Michael knelt down. The dog approached the kennel door cautiously, tail wagging hesitantly. The placard on the kennel read, "Daisy, age 2. Owner surrendered due to housing loss. Good with kids. Needs patient home." Quote, "She's perfect," Michael said softly. "They adopted Daisy that day. She didn't replace Princess. Nothing could. But she gave Michael a new purpose, a new companion, a new life to care for. And caring for others, Michael had learned, was how you healed yourself. Share this video with every animal lover you know, because Princess's legacy continues through the Princess Project. Emma spent the summer of 2025 with Michael in Providence, just as they'd planned. They fell into a routine. Michael worked during the day while Emma attended a summer basketball camp. Evenings were spent together, cooking dinner, watching movies, taking Daisy for walks, talking about everything and nothing. Jennifer visited twice during the summer, staying for a few days each time. She and Michael weren't getting back together. Too much had happened. Too many years had passed. But they were becoming friends again, learning to co-parent effectively, supporting each other in raising their daughter. One evening, as they sat on Michael's apartment balcony watching the sunset, Jennifer said, "I'm proud of you, Michael. You've done something remarkable. You've rebuilt yourself from nothing." Quote, "I couldn't have done it without help, without Judge Caprio, without Father Miguel, without all those people who believed in me. But you had to accept that help. A lot of people can't. Their pride won't let them. You were humble enough to receive what was offered." Michael nodded. "I learned that asking for help isn't weakness. It's wisdom." Judge Caprio announced his retirement in October 2025 at age 80. His final day on the bench was November 30th. Michael attended, along with hundreds of others whose lives the judge had touched over 5 decades. The courtroom was standing room only, filled with people who'd experienced the judge's compassion firsthand. In his final statement from the bench, Judge Caprio said, "I've had the privilege of serving this community for 50 years. I've seen thousands of people at their worst moments, facing consequences for their mistakes. But I've also seen the incredible resilience of the human spirit. I've seen people transform themselves when given a chance." Michael Thompson's case will always stand out as one of my proudest moments, not because of what I did, but because of what he did with the opportunity he was given. That's the lesson I want to leave you with. Everyone deserves a chance. Everyone deserves to be seen as a human being. And sometimes, all it takes is one person showing compassion to change the trajectory of a life. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Michael couldn't stop crying. After the ceremony, Judge Caprio pulled Michael aside. "I have something for you." He handed Michael a framed photo. It was from that first court date, February 14th, 2023. The moment Michael had pulled Princess from his coat. The judge's face showed shock, compassion, concern. Michael's face showed vulnerability, fear, hope. "This moment changed both of us," Judge Caprio said. "I want you to have this as a reminder of where you started and how far you've come. Your Honor, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping veterans. Keep being a good father. Keep choosing hope. That's all the thanks I'll ever need." They hugged two men from completely different worlds whose lives had intersected for a brief moment and created ripples that would last generations. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we share inspiring stories like this every week. By the end of 2025, Michael had been sober for 3 years. He'd held steady employment for nearly 3 years. He'd successfully co-parented Emma for a full year. He'd helped the Princess Project assist over 2,000 veterans. He'd given speeches in 43 states. He'd been featured in national media, including a segment on 60 Minutes that was viewed by over 20 million people. But the accomplishment he was most proud of? Emma was thriving. She was a straight-A student, a talented basketball player, a confident, compassionate young woman who volunteered at the local animal shelter and wanted to become a veterinarian like Dr. Martinez. She was happy, healthy, loved. On February 14, 2026, exactly 3 years after his first court appearance, Michael returned to Providence Municipal Court one final time. Judge Caprio had retired, but his successor, Judge Maria Santos, had invited Michael to speak to a group of defendants as part of a new restorative justice program. Michael stood before 30 people who were facing various charges. Some had substance abuse issues, some were homeless, some were veterans. All of them looked defeated, hopeless, convinced their lives were over. 3 years ago today, Michael began, I stood in this exact courtroom, homeless, broken, and holding my daughter's dog under my coat because I had nowhere else to keep her. I had 17 unpaid parking tickets, no money, no home, and no hope. I thought my life was over. I was wrong. He spent the next hour sharing his story. The courtroom was silent, except for his voice and the occasional sound of someone crying. When he finished, he said, "I'm not special. I'm not stronger or better than any of you. I just got lucky enough to encounter people who saw me as a human being instead of a problem. And I was desperate enough to accept their help. That's all it takes. Find the courage to accept help. That's where recovery starts." A young woman raised her hand. She was probably in her 20s, thin and tired looking. But what if you don't deserve help? What if you've messed up so bad that you don't deserve a second chance? Quote, Michael walked over and knelt down so he was at eye level with her. "What's your name?" Quote, "Ashley. Ashley, 3 years ago I thought the same thing. I'd failed my wife, my daughter, my country. I'd failed myself. But here's what I learned. Everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody. Your worst day doesn't define you. What you do after that worst day, that's what defines you. You're here, aren't you? You're showing up. That takes courage. So yes, you absolutely deserve help. And I hope you'll be brave enough to accept it." Quote, Ashley started crying. Michael hugged her. Several other people in the courtroom were crying too. Judge Santos had to pause the session because the emotion was too overwhelming. After the session ended, 17 of the 30 defendants signed up for the Princess Project's services. Ashley was one of them. 6 months later, Michael received a letter from her. She was in recovery, had been sober for 4 months, and had just moved into her own apartment. She'd adopted a cat from a shelter. She was working part-time at a coffee shop. And she was starting community college in the fall. "You were right," she wrote. "My worst day didn't define me. Thank you for showing me that recovery is possible." Michael added her letter to a growing collection he kept in a binder. Letters from veterans he'd helped, from people who'd heard his story and found hope. There were over 300 letters now. Each one represented a life changed, a person who'd chosen to keep fighting. Comment below if you believe in second chances, because Ashley and Michael's stories prove that transformation is always possible. In the spring of 2026, the Princess Project announced a major expansion. They'd received a $5 million grant from a national veterans organization and were opening residential facilities in 10 cities. These facilities would provide temporary housing for homeless veterans with pets while they transitioned into permanent housing and received mental health treatment. The first facility opened in Providence, Rhode Island, on April 15, 2026. It was named the Princess House in honor of the little Chihuahua who'd started it all. The facility could house 30 veterans and their pets, providing private rooms, on-site veterinary care, mental health counseling, job training, and case management. Michael was appointed director of the Providence facility. It was a full-time position with benefits, salary, and the opportunity to directly help veterans every single day. He accepted immediately. Emma attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, along with Judge Caprio, Father Miguel, Mrs. Martinez, Dr. Martinez, Robert Castellano, Patricia Donovan, and dozens of others who'd been part of Michael's journey. A bronze statue of Princess was unveiled at the facility's entrance, the little dog sitting proudly, her tail in mid-wag. Judge Caprio gave the dedication speech. 4 years ago, a desperate man walked into my courtroom holding a small dog under his coat. He was homeless, hopeless, and convinced he had nothing left to lose. But he had something he didn't even realize. He had the courage to be vulnerable, he had the wisdom to accept help, and he had the determination to transform his life. That man, Michael Thompson, is now helping hundreds of other veterans do the same. This facility stands as a testament to what's possible when we choose compassion over judgment, when we see people instead of problems, when we believe in redemption instead of punishment. Princess House will change lives. It will save lives. And it all started because one man loved a little dog enough to keep fighting. The ceremony ended with the release of 13 doves, one for each year of Princess's life. They circled the building once before flying away into the clear spring sky. Michael watched them go, thinking about Princess, about how one small dog had created ripples that had now become waves of change. Share this video with someone who needs to see that miracles happen when communities come together. The first veteran to move into Princess House was a woman named Captain Rachel Morrison, U.S. Air Force, retired. She'd served 2 tours in Iraq and had been living in her truck with her German Shepherd, Rex, for 6 months. She was 52 years old, had severe PTSD, and had lost her job as an accountant after a panic attack at work. Michael met her at intake. "Welcome home, Captain." Rachel looked at him with hollow eyes. "This isn't home. I don't have a home." Quote, "You do now. Come on, let me show you your room." Over the next 6 months, Michael watched Rachel transform. The therapy helped. The security of knowing she had a safe place to sleep helped. The job training helped. But mostly, it was the community. She was surrounded by other veterans who understood. Who didn't judge? Who'd been where she was? Rachel got a job at a local accounting firm in October 2026. She moved into her own apartment in December, taking Rex with her. On her last day at Princess House, she found Michael in his office. "I want to thank you," she said. "You saved my life." "No, Rachel, you saved your own life. I just showed you the door." "That's what Judge Caprio told you, isn't it?" Quote. Michael smiled, word for word. "Then I guess I'll have to pass it on to someone else someday." That's how it works. We help each other. That's how we all survive. By the end of 2026, Princess House had served 83 veterans. 71 had successfully transitioned to permanent housing. 54 had found employment. 68 were receiving ongoing mental health treatment. And every single one of their pets had received comprehensive veterinary care. The model worked. 9 more Princess Houses opened across the country in 2027. Plans were underway for 20 additional facilities. The Princess Project had become a national movement, helping thousands of homeless veterans and their beloved pets. Michael continued to share his story, but now he also shared the stories of the veterans he was helping at Princess House. Rachel's story, Ashley's story. The story of Robert Torres from Phoenix, who now ran the Princess Project's Arizona chapter. Staff Sergeant Linda Martinez, who'd become a peer counselor at a VA hospital. Dozens of others who'd found hope when they thought all hope was gone. Subscribe and hit that bell icon, because these stories of redemption and recovery will inspire you. Emma graduated middle school in June 2027 and decided to attend high school in Providence, living with Michael full-time. Jennifer supported the decision. "She needs her father," Jennifer told Michael, "and you've proven you can be the father she needs. I'm proud of you, Michael." "I really am." It was the first time she'd said those words in over a decade, Michael cried. Emma's room in Michael's apartment was decorated with photos. Princess in the courtroom. Princess at the park. Princess sleeping on the couch. Emma insisted on keeping Princess's pink blanket, now faded and worn, folded carefully on her bed. "She was special, Dad. She saved you so you could save all those other veterans. She was special, baby, and so are you." Daisy, the beagle mix, became Emma's constant companion. They were inseparable. Emma took Daisy to school sometimes for the therapy dog program, where Daisy would visit classrooms and help students who were struggling with anxiety or stress. Even in death, Princess's legacy continued through Daisy's work. Michael and Emma fell into a comfortable routine, morning breakfast together. He'd drive her to school before going to Princess' house. Evening dinners where they'd talk about their days, weekend activities, hiking with Daisy, attending Emma's basketball games, volunteering together at the animal shelter. They were building the relationship they'd lost, stronger now because it was built on honesty, vulnerability, and mutual respect. Judge Caprio passed away peacefully in his sleep on October 12, 2027, at age 81. The entire city mourned. His funeral was attended by thousands. People lined the streets as the funeral procession passed, holding signs that said, "Thank you, Judge," and "You showed us compassion matters." Michael gave a eulogy. "Judge Frank Caprio saw me at my absolute lowest point and chose to see my humanity instead of my failures. He didn't just change my life, he taught me how to change other lives. Every veteran I help at Princess House, I do it because Judge Caprio showed me that one person's compassion can create ripples that become waves, that become tsunamis of positive change. He was a giant among men, and the world is darker without his light, but his legacy lives on in every life he touched, every person he helped, every moment of mercy he showed. Thank you, Judge. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for teaching all of us what justice truly means." There wasn't a dry eye in the church. The service ended with a video montage of the judge's most famous courtroom moments. The final clip was Michael pulling Princess from his coat, the judge's face showing shock and compassion. It had been viewed over 100 million times worldwide. That single moment of humanity had changed everything. Like this video right now, if you believe that Judge Caprio's legacy should live forever. The Princess Project established the Judge Frank Caprio Compassionate Justice Award in 2028, an annual honor given to judges who demonstrated exceptional compassion in their courtrooms. The award came with a $10,000 donation to a charity of the judge's choice. Michael presented the first award at a ceremony attended by judges from across America. Judge Caprio believed that the law and justice aren't always the same thing, Michael said in his presentation speech. He believed that everyone who stands before a judge is a human being with a story, with struggles, with dignity that deserves to be honored. This award celebrates judges who embody that philosophy, who choose compassion over rigid adherence to rules, who see people instead of case numbers. Because that kind of justice changes lives. It certainly changed mine. The first recipient was Judge Maria Santos, who'd continued Judge Caprio's tradition of compassion in Providence Municipal Court. She'd helped establish similar programs in her courtroom, connecting defendants with resources instead of just issuing punishments. Dozens of people had been helped through her interventions. By 2028, the Princess Project had expanded to all 50 states. Over 5,000 veterans had been helped. 92 Princess houses were operational or under construction. The organization had a staff of over 300 people, most of them veterans themselves. The annual operating budget was $18 million, funded through grants, donations, and fundraising events. Michael was promoted to National Director of Veteran Services, overseeing all the Princess houses across the country. It was a huge responsibility, but he was ready for it. He'd been preparing his whole life, though he hadn't known it at the time. Every hardship, every failure, every dark night in his car had been preparing him for this moment, this purpose. Emma was a sophomore in high school, a star on the varsity basketball team, a straight-A student, and one of the most compassionate young people Michael had ever known. She volunteered 20 hours a month at Princess House Providence, helping with intake, playing with the pets, organizing donation drives. She'd decided she wanted to become a social worker specializing in veteran services. "Dad, you showed me that helping people is the most important thing we can do," she told him one evening. "I want to spend my life doing that too." Quote, Michael had never been more proud. Share this entire video because Michael's journey from homeless veteran to national advocate is a story everyone needs to hear. On February 14, 2028, exactly 5 years after his first court appearance, Michael stood in Providence Municipal Court for the final time. Judge Santos had invited him to speak at a special ceremony, honoring Judge Caprio's legacy. The courtroom was packed. National media was present. This event would be broadcast live. Michael stood at the defendant's podium where he'd stood 5 years ago, broken and hopeless. Now he was whole, healthy, purposeful. He looked out at the crowd and saw Emma in the front row, smiling at him with pride. "5 years ago today," Michael began, "I stood in this exact spot, homeless, desperate, and hiding my daughter's dog under my coat because I had no other options. I was prepared to accept whatever punishment the court gave me because I believed I deserved it. I believed I was worthless, that I'd failed at everything that mattered, that there was no hope for someone like me. And then Judge Frank Caprio asked me a simple question. Did you serve our country? That question and everything that followed changed the trajectory of my entire life." He paused, gathering himself. "But this story isn't really about me. It's about the power of compassion. It's about what happens when we choose to see each other as human beings instead of problems to be solved. It's about the ripples one act of kindness can create." Because Judge Caprio's compassion didn't just save me, it inspired hundreds of people to help me. It inspired the creation of the Princess Project. It inspired 5,000 veterans to seek help. It inspired communities across America to be more compassionate toward our homeless neighbors. It inspired millions of people watching online to believe that kindness still matters in this world. The courtroom was silent, except for Michael's voice. "I've spent the last 5 years trying to honor Judge Caprio's legacy by helping other veterans. Every time I meet a homeless veteran, I see myself 5 years ago, and I try to show them the same compassion the judge showed me. Because I learned that you can't save everyone, but you can save someone, and saving someone can create ripples that save everyone." He pulled a worn piece of paper from his pocket. "This is the check Judge Caprio gave me 5 years ago. $500. I never cashed it. I kept it as a reminder of the moment my life changed. But today, I'm going to honor this check by donating $500 to every Princess House in America. That's $46,000 total. Because the judge's gift to me wasn't really the money. It was the belief that I mattered, that I was worth saving. I want every veteran in our facilities to feel that same thing." The crowd erupted in applause. Emma was crying. Judge Santos was crying. Mrs. Martinez, now retired but in attendance, was sobbing openly. Michael concluded, "Judge Caprio once told me, 'You saved your own life. I just held the door open. Today, I'm holding doors open for other veterans. And I'll keep doing it for the rest of my life. Because that's what the judge taught me. That's what Princess taught me. That's what all of you taught me. We save each other. That's how we survive. That's how we honor those who showed us compassion. We pass it on." Subscribe right now and share this video with everyone you know because this is what hope looks like. The ceremony ended with the unveiling of a permanent memorial plaque in the courthouse, dedicated to Judge Frank Caprio. It included a photo of the judge and a quote, "The law and justice are not always the same. Our job is to bridge that gap with compassion." Michael spent the rest of that day at Princess House Providence, where they were celebrating their 2nd anniversary. There was a party with cake, balloons, and over 40 veterans, both current residents and alumni. Rachel Morrison was there with Rex. Robert Torres had flown in from Arizona with Gunner. Ashley had driven up from Connecticut with her cat, Oliver. Dozens of others whose lives had been changed by the compassion shown one cold February morning 5 years ago. They shared stories, laughter, tears. They talked about their struggles and their triumphs. They celebrated how far they'd all come. And they remembered Princess, the little Chihuahua whose appearance in a courtroom had sparked a movement. Emma gave a speech at the party. "I was 9 years old when my parents got divorced. I was so angry at my dad. I didn't understand why he couldn't just be normal, why he had bad dreams, why he drank, why he pushed us away. My mom said he was sick, but I didn't really believe it. Then I heard about what happened in the courtroom. I saw the video. I saw my dad holding Princess, crying, asking for help. And I realized he wasn't weak, he was brave. It takes courage to ask for help. My dad showed me that, and now he's helping all of you show that same courage. I'm so proud to be his daughter." Michael hugged her while everyone applauded. This was his greatest accomplishment. Not the organization, not the lives saved, not the national recognition. This, having his daughter back, earning her respect, being the father she deserved. Like and subscribe if you believe family is worth fighting for, because Michael's relationship with Emma proves that love can survive anything. In July 2028, Michael received a letter from Jennifer. She was getting remarried to a man she'd been dating for 2 years, someone who treated her well and loved Emma. The wedding was in September, and she wanted Michael to walk Emma down the aisle as a junior bridesmaid. "You're her father," Jennifer wrote. "You'll always be her father. And you've earned the right to be part of these important moments. I hope you'll come." Michael flew to Cleveland for the wedding. It was surreal, watching his ex-wife marry someone else. But it was also beautiful. She was happy. Emma was happy. And Michael was genuinely happy for them both. He'd let go of the guilt, the shame, the feeling that he'd ruined everything. He'd accepted that sometimes relationships end, but that doesn't mean they failed. He and Jennifer had created something beautiful together, Emma, and they were both better co-parents apart than they'd been as a married couple. Walking Emma down the aisle, Michael whispered, "I love you, baby girl. I love you too, Dad. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for giving me a reason not to." By the end of 2028, 5.5 years after his court appearance, Michael Thompson had achieved a level of peace he'd never thought possible. He had meaningful work that helped people. He had a strong relationship with his daughter. He was 6.5 years sober. He was financially stable. He had a community of friends and fellow veterans who supported him. He was healthy, both physically and mentally, though he still attended therapy regularly and would probably need to for the rest of his life. But most importantly, he had hope. Real, genuine hope for the future. Hope that he could continue making a difference. Hope that his daughter would thrive. Hope that the Princess Project would help thousands more veterans. Hope that compassion would triumph over judgment, that mercy would triumph over punishment, that love would triumph over despair. Princess House Providence now had a waiting list of over 300 veterans. The demand far exceeded capacity. Michael and the board of directors were planning to open 3 more facilities in Rhode Island alone. The model was working. 87% of veterans who completed the program successfully transitioned to permanent housing and remained housed after 1 year. That was unprecedented in homeless services. National media continued to feature Michael's story. He appeared on talk shows, podcasts, news programs. He never got tired of sharing it, because every time he told it, someone reached out for help. Someone who'd been suffering in silence saw his story and found the courage to ask for support. At a conference in late 2028, a young veteran approached Michael. The man was probably in his late 20s, thin and haunted-looking. He was holding a small terrier. "Mr. Thompson, I need help." "What's your name?" Quote, David Chen. "I served in Afghanistan, been homeless for 8 months. This is Scout. She's all I have." Michael knelt down to pet Scout. The little dog wagged her tail hopefully. "David, you're in the right place. Let's get you connected with our intake coordinator. We're going to help you." "Really?" Just like that? Quote, "Just like that. See, 6 years ago, I was exactly where you are, and people helped me without judgment, without conditions. Now it's my turn to do the same for you. Come on, let's get you signed up." Quote, as Michael walked David through the intake process, he thought about Princess, about Judge Caprio, about that cold February morning that had changed everything. He thought about the thousands of people who'd shown him compassion when he needed it most. And he smiled, knowing that the cycle continued, that compassion multiplied, that every life saved had the potential to save countless others. The ripples had become waves. The waves had become a tsunami of positive change. And it all started with one homeless veteran, one little dog, and one judge who chose to see humanity instead of just another case number. Drop one final comment telling us what this story taught you, and subscribe, because we'll continue sharing stories of hope, redemption, and the power of human compassion. Michael Thompson's story reminds us that our worst moments don't define us, that asking for help is courage, not weakness, that one person's compassion can change the world, that everyone deserves a second chance, that love, in all its forms, is worth fighting for. That healing is possible, even when it seems impossible, that we're stronger together than we could ever be alone, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. If you or someone you know is a homeless veteran who needs help, visit the Princess Project's website. Resources are available. Hope is available. Recovery is possible. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for believing that compassion matters. Now go out and be someone's Judge Caprio. Hold the door open. See people as human beings. Show mercy. Create ripples. Change lives. Because that's what heroes do. And we can all be heroes.